didn't mean for you to see this.
What is this? You're not even supposed to be in here.
No, but I had to write it down before I lost the nerve.
Stop the signing. The voice cut through the silence like lightning. All eyes turned to the doorway, where a cleaning lady stood, clutching a folder to her chest. The billionaire froze, pen hovering above the bankruptcy papers. His lawyer's face went pale. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. In her trembling hands was the one thing that could destroy them all. Proof that his signature had been forged. What began as a routine morning in a collapsing empire was about to become a battle for truth, power, and justice. This is the cleaning lady who saved a billionaire. Welcome. Story lovers? Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. It was just before dawn when Richard Calloway sat alone in his glass-walled office on the 80th floor, staring at the city he once owned. The skyline shimmered beneath a slow, gray sunrise, a view that had once made him feel invincible. But now it mocked him. The empire he built from nothing, hotels, tech startups, charity foundations, was crumbling before his eyes. Every headline called him the fallen billionaire. Every investor had turned their back. And at precisely 8 a.m., he would sign the bankruptcy papers that would end it all. The silence in that office was heavier than any storm. Richard's suit was immaculate, his pen gold-plated, but his hands trembled. He'd always believed that hard work and intellect could outlast betrayal. He was wrong. The betrayal came not from competitors, but from those closest to him, partners, board members, even his attorney. The numbers didn't lie, the documents were sealed, and the courts were waiting. Down below, the building's marble lobby gleamed under fluorescent light. Miriam Jackson pushed her cleaning cart across the floor, humming softly to herself. She had been cleaning this tower for years, always invisible, always polite, always careful. People walked past her every morning without a glance. Still, she noticed everything, the patterns of who stayed late, who whispered in corners, who left papers out when they shouldn't have. That morning, something felt different. The usually bustling lobby was eerily still. A torn folder lay near the elevators, its contents scattered, a few pages stamped confidential. She hesitated before picking them up. It wasn't her business. But one page caught her eye, an unfamiliar signature that didn't match the one she'd seen 100 times on the notices she cleaned off office doors. Up above, Richard sighed, unaware that a woman he'd never met was about to rewrite his fate. And as the clock crept toward 8, 2 lives, one broken, one overlooked, were about to collide in a way that would expose the truth. Shake an empire and challenge everything the world thought it knew about power, race, and justice. The morning unfolded like a slow, cruel countdown. Richard's legal team had arrived hours earlier, their suits sharp, their words sharper. They spoke in hushed tones, moving with the precision of people who had already decided the outcome. The once celebrated billionaire now sat as a silent spectator in his own demise. Every whisper, every stapled document, every signature line felt like another shovel of dirt on his career's grave. Outside the conference room, the building buzzed with indifferent life. Phones rang, coffee machines hissed, and heels clicked down polished floors. No one cared that one of the nation's most powerful men was about to fall. Power was fickle, and Richard's had run out. Downstairs, Miriam gathered her cleaning supplies and the folder she had found. She didn't know why, but something about that mismatched signature gnawed at her. The loops, the strokes, too smooth, too mechanical. She had seen Richard's handwriting before on thank you notes sent to staff. This one was wrong. She told herself to ignore it. A cleaning lady had no place questioning billion-dollar deals. But as she glanced again, she noticed more. Names of companies, offshore accounts, and an unfamiliar corporation tied to his lawyer's name. Her heart thumped. She knew corruption when she saw it. She had lived through it, worked under it, and been crushed by it. But this time she felt something different, an ache, a quiet conviction. Maybe this was her chance to do more than mop floors. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. Her reflection in the mirrored walls looked back at her, tired eyes, steady hands. The numbers climbed. Her pulse quickened. When the doors opened, the air felt colder. The conference room was visible through the glass, a cluster of men in tailored suits, pens poised, faces blank. Richard sat motionless, a man about to surrender everything. Miriam hesitated at the doorway, unsure how to begin. But courage is often born in silence. She approached the assistant outside the meeting, clutching the folder. "I think these belong to Mr. Calloway," she said softly. The assistant frowned, ready to dismiss her, but Richard caught sight of the exchange through the glass and waved her in. The room went quiet. Miriam stepped forward, her shoes squeaking on the polished floor. She handed him the folder and pointed at the signature. "Sir, I clean this floor every morning. I've seen your name on more letters than I can count. That," she paused, her voice steady but low, "that isn't your signature." A ripple of confusion spread through the room. One lawyer laughed under his breath. Another reached for the folder too quickly. Richard's gaze hardened. He scanned the page, his eyes narrowing. The strokes, the ink, she was right. It was a forgery. For a moment, the air held its breath. Miriam took a step back, unsure if she had made a mistake. But Richard's trembling hand stilled. Something in him shifted, the spark of a man who had been beaten down, suddenly remembering who he was. What Miriam had stumbled upon wasn't just a mistake. It was the thread that could unravel the entire web of betrayal around him. And for the first time in weeks, Richard Calloway looked not like a man defeated, but a man awakening. The room exploded with noise. Lawyers scrambled, voices overlapping, papers rustling like a storm. Richard stood, his chair screeching against the floor. The forged signature stared back at him like a ghost of his downfall. His lawyer, the very man he had trusted for 20 years, tried to speak, but his trembling lips betrayed him. Richard's mind raced, connecting the dots, the sudden withdrawals, the secret offshore accounts, the advice to declare bankruptcy quickly. It all made sense now. He wasn't losing everything because of bad luck or poor judgment. He was being stolen from, and the proof had been lying in a cleaning lady's hands. "Explain this," Richard said, his voice calm but dangerous. The lawyer stammered, offering excuses that dissolved in the weight of silence. One by one, the others in the room began to realize the truth. The empire wasn't bankrupt. It had been hijacked. Miriam stood frozen by the door, uncertain if she'd done the right thing. She had faced racism her whole life, dismissed, ignored, called invisible. But in this moment, every eye was on her. And for once, they saw her not as the help, but as the woman who saw what no one else dared to. Security was called. The corrupted lawyer was escorted out, shouting empty threats. Richard turned toward Miriam, eyes wet, voice breaking, not with pity, but gratitude. The clock struck 8. But instead of signing his bankruptcy, Richard Calloway signed something else, his redemption. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. By noon, the story had already begun to spread. News outlets rushed to confirm what seemed unbelievable, a billionaire saved from ruin by a cleaning lady's observation. The same newspapers that had branded Richard Calloway a failure now called it the Calloway miracle. But behind the headlines, the truth was quieter, deeper. Richard reinstated control of his company, exposing the conspiracy that nearly destroyed him. Several executives were arrested as their fraudulent empire collapsed overnight. Yet amid the chaos, he kept thinking of the woman who had changed everything, not with power, not with wealth, but with courage. The next morning, Miriam Jackson arrived at work as usual. But this time, security didn't stop her at the door. They greeted her by name. Her story had reached millions, and when Richard offered her a position on his internal ethics team, she hesitated only for a moment before saying yes. For her, it wasn't about fame. It was about justice, proving that integrity could still matter in a world where people like her were often unseen. Richard's empire would recover, stronger and cleaner than before. But the greater rebuilding happened in him, a man who finally understood that real worth isn't in net value, but in human value. In a world divided by privilege and prejudice, it took the eyes of a black woman, long ignored, to remind everyone watching that truth has no color and courage needs no title. How many stories like this are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to see them? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful true stories that deserve to be told.